Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tejano Virtual Events. Thank you all for coming today. We are going to have some really great information for you today. Today's session is going to be on volunteer opportunities and dog fostering with Miss Elizabeth Olivas. Before I hand it over to our presenter, I would like to mention that this session will be recorded so that you may come back to it later if you need, and that all others who have missed out on today's events will be able to come back and watch it. Also, I'd like to mention that this event will provide Tejano passport points. We will post the code at the end of the session in the chat. If you have any questions about how to get into Tejano passport points, please ask us at the end of the session. So now at this time, please mute your mics for the best sound experience. Otherwise, our feedback could interfere with the information we'll be sharing with you today. Without any further ado, I will hand it over to our presenter, Ms. Elizabeth Olivas. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this sunny Friday afternoon. My name is Liz Olivas. I'm the Academic Resources Manager at the Mission del Paso campus. I run the tutoring center, and I'm here to talk to you about the volunteer work that I do, which is through Mutt Love Dog Rescue. So I'm going to explain the animal rescue situation in El Paso and in relating that to your academic life, how you can boost your resume and gain experience by volunteering with the animal rescues in the area. And throughout the slideshow, you'll see several pictures. These pictures are not stock photos. These are all actually animals that we have had in our rescue. So I'll give you their names. I'll give you a little bit of information about them. Okay, so let me move on to the first slide. So just a little bit about Mutt Love. This dog rescue was established in 2016. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So we are completely legit with the IRS. You know, all of our funds get tracked and appropriated. Fortunately, since we are a nonprofit, we don't have to pay taxes on these funds, but honestly, we don't really make money. All the money goes to the operations of the rescue and to helping animals. The mission of Mutt Love Dog Rescue is to spread awareness regarding the problem of animal abuse, animal neglect, the problem of breeding in the borderland community, and we also want to emphasize the importance of vaccinating, sterilizing, and microchipping all pets. Fun fact, you can microchip almost any type of animal. It doesn't have to be just a dog or a cat. For example, a lot of people have rabbits or turtles as pets. I'm sorry, I did not mute my phone. um, a lot of people have rabbits, turtles, rats as pets. You can actually microchip all of those animals as well. But anyway, the target of the rescue is medically needy dogs and cats in the El Paso region. So I'm talking animals, for example, that are strays out on the street. They can also be animals that are caught by animal services, and they call us and they ask us to get them um, from the shelter and put them into a foster home. They can also be owner surrenders, meaning the owner of the pet has either turned them into the Humane Society or to Animal Services or directly to us because they cannot continue caring for the animal. We also receive requests from veterinarians directly. Sometimes we have cases where somebody will walk in off the street and they will turn in a dog or a cat to a veterinarian and they'll say, I either found this dog on the street, you know, they were hit by a car, or they look like they're hurt and they're a stray. And of course, the vets can't just keep those dogs, so they call in dog rescues to go in and help if needed. We also target hoarding cases, and we have had several animal hoarding cases here in the borderland. I'll give you a little bit of information about some of those later in the presentation. So those are always very difficult cases because you have a ton of animals that you need to get out quickly and get them the medical care and get them into foster care or adopt them out. And then lastly, occasionally we do get community members requesting help, not necessarily with rehoming their pet, but maybe their financial circumstances have changed and they're no longer able to afford the food for their animal, or the animal, you know, has a medical emergency or they broke a bone, things like that, and they're not able to provide them with the veterinary care. Occasionally, we do help raise funds for those types of cases where, so that the person can keep their pet and we just help them with the financial costs temporarily. Um, I would just like to point out that stray animals and owner surrenders are the biggest problem that we have here in El Paso in regards to animal rescue and animal control. And that goes back, to animals not being spayed or neutered, early enough, and you have accidental litters, or you have owners who are just unwilling to continue caring for example, a puppy that they got for Christmas for their kid, or somebody received a bunny for Easter, and then they decide they don't want to, take care of that rabbit for the rest of its life. So, requests to surrender animals and animals as strays on the street, those are the biggest problems that we have here in town. And now a little bit about our operations, how we function. We are 100% foster home based. What that means is we don't have a headquarters. There's no main location where people can go and look at the animals that we have because, having a separate facility costs money, and basically all of the funds that we get go into the animals' medical care and getting them vetted and providing for their food. So we don't spend money on a property to keep the animals. We currently have 9 volunteer administrators. I'm one of them. We have about 20 volunteer fosters currently. We are always accepting new volunteers, whether to foster um, or to just help us at events, things like that. And I will get into some examples of that later of how you can help. We are 100% funded by individual donations. So we don't receive money from animal services. We don't receive money from the city or anything like that. All of our funds come from the El Paso community, from the people who are generous enough to donate to our organization. We have received some larger donations from companies occasionally, but that's the exception, not the rule. Um, we can apply for grants as a 501c3 organization. Obviously, that doesn't always mean that we receive these grants, but we try to get money from anywhere that we can, really. And just as far as the animals that we have right now, we currently have 35 dogs and 4 cats under our care. I know it's called Mutlove Dog Rescue. We do help cats as well, but cats tend to do a lot better living out on their own. That's why um, the rescue doesn't take in as many cats, but if we find a cat in need, we will take them in as well. And that cat that you see right there in the sink, that's Gorda. She's one of our longtime cat fosters. She's not very friendly. That's why she hasn't been adopted yet, but she's a good little kitty. And right here on the left, you have Morgan. This is an old picture of her. She is a pit bull mix that was found as a stray puppy on the street, and she had an injury to her eye. They couldn't save it, so the eye had to be removed. But she's very rambunctious. She loves to jump on counters. So she's also one of our long-term fosters because she does need a lot of training. And if you have any questions or comments, you can type them in the chat or feel free to raise your hand and we can pause the presentation. Okay, so who do we help? This is kind of a loaded question with a lot of different answers. So the dogs that we help are the dogs and cats that are the most in need of saving, meaning the dogs that really won't have another chance elsewhere for various reasons. So, for example, it can be a dog or cat that is unattractive, that doesn't look nice, depending on what has happened to them. And a prime example of that is Serrano in that middle picture there. He is a Newfoundland mix, and that's what he looked like when he first came out of the vet. As you notice, he has a facial deformity. His hair had to grow back. He's got a scar on his nose. So that's not a pretty dog, quote unquote, that everybody would want. So we get those kinds of animals. We sometimes get animals that have been at animal services for a long time. So they they start to deteriorate mentally, they start behaving aggressively or nervously, and that's when you have to remove them from the situation for their own benefit and for the safety of others. So sometimes we do get animals from there. um, there's dogs that are not picked up by other rescues for various reasons. Again, since the stray and owner surrender problem is so big in our city, most of the time, all of the other rescues are also full or close to capacity. So, if a dog is not being picked up by another rescue and they really need some sort of medical help, we'll try to take them in. We also have older dogs or senior dogs. Sometimes, for example, a pet's owner will pass away and the remaining family members don't want to or are unable to take care of the dog or cat. So they end up at animal services, or before they end up abandoned, if people reach out to us, we can take in those animals as well. We also take in animals with behavioral issues, and this is a big problem when dogs are not socialized. So we have dogs that have separation anxiety, or they just dig giant holes in your yard, or they're afraid of men. That's a big problem that dogs have sometimes. So a variety of behavioral issues that they might have, and we bring them in. We work with trainers, and a lot of us do have a lot of training experience, so we try to fix that for them so that they become adoptable. We also take in sick dogs, obviously. Here on the right, that very skinny Doberman you see, her name is Oksana. She came to us from Animal Services. She had heartworm. That's why she was so skinny. So she needed a lot of veterinary care. She needed the heartworm treatment, and a lot of times the people who would otherwise help the dog are unable to afford the treatment. So we step in, we pay for their care, again, until they're adoptable. It can be dogs that are injured also. On the left-hand side, that big Great Dane there with his tongue out, that's Mouse. And he was a stray. He had an injury to his leg. He might have gotten hit by a car. We don't know exactly the situation. Um, so those types of injuries that can be fixed easily if you have the funds, we take them in, and once they're healed, we put them up for adoption. And lastly, we also have a lot of pets that have chronic illnesses. So yes, dogs and cats do get chronic illnesses. Um, Cats can have FIV, or they can have different STDs. Dogs, we get a lot of dogs with heartworm. We actually currently have one dog in hospice, which is foster hospice. His name is Fergus, and he actually has cancer. So we are providing his cancer treatment. And obviously, since he's sick, he's not available for adoption. So he will stay with his foster family until he crosses the Rainbow Bridge. So those are the types of cases that we take on. And let me move to the next slide. Okay, so let me give you a bunch of numbers here real quick. Let's talk numbers. So in 2023, I want to share these two statistics. Last year in animal services, 757 animals passed away, either due to illness or natural causes, things like that. And 1,941 animals were euthanized by animal services. And again, we'll go into the reasons why. Now, these numbers sound really bad. However, in all of last year, every single month, the euthanasia rate was 24% or less. So that means that most of the animals who went into animal services, they either stayed there until they were adopted out, or they are still there. And so that's actually a pretty big survival rate, right? I know some people feel that animal services maybe is kind of useless sometimes. They're just an evil organization that are going to go pick up the dog, and put them down, but that's really not the case. Animal Services takes in an average 17,000 animals per year. And actually in 2024, they're expected to process 20,000 dogs and cats. So that's a massive amount of animals if you think about it. And if you think about it from the dog's perspective, being at animal services or being, in the kennels, in the shelters, that is a very stressful situation. That's why we try to step in and get them out before they deteriorate. Aside from animal services, Mutt Love, just specifically this organization, we receive about 40 requests a month from owners wanting to surrender their pets. But again, since we don't have a headquarters, we're 100% foster home based, most of these requests get turned down simply because we don't have the space to put the dog. You know, a lot of people think it's easy to just go and drop off a dog somewhere, but you don't think of, okay, where are they going to sleep? Who is going to pick up their poop? Who's going to feed them and give them water? You know, there's a lot of logistics tied to that. And as far as the requests that we receive, we get all kinds of reasons. So people, you know, are moving into a smaller place and there's no room for the dog. Or they're like, well, my dog is suddenly aggressive. Or my kid developed allergies to the dog. It can also be, oh, we had a baby. We no longer have time for this animal. Or, hey, I didn't spay my dog and now she's pregnant. I don't want this problem. You know, take it off my hands. Or they can say, my dog is very destructive, my dog keeps escaping. So, most of these reasons could have been prevented with proper training and medical care beforehand. That's why we really, really advocate um, for getting your dog sterilized as early as possible. And funnily enough, in other regions, we have the opposite problem. Other parts of the country have a lot more families wanting to adopt pets, but not enough animals. And actually, Mutlove Dog Rescue, one of the things that we do is we do transports. So we take dogs all over the place. We've taken dogs to other parts of Texas, to New Mexico, to Colorado, to California, basically any region that tells us, hey, we need more animals, we raise the funds, we take them over there. I've done many, many transports. I've probably taken about 50 dogs to other parts of the country, just because that helps fix the problem here a little bit. Um, Now, going back to talking about animal services, because of the huge amount of animals that they take in, they've had to expand in recent years. So, hopefully, you all know about the main location on Fred Wilson. That's the main animal services location, and then the Humane Society is right next door. Less people know about the Mission Valley Adoption Center. That one is on Socorro Road over here in the Lower Valley. So, you can also go and check out the animals that they have there. The one that I think is the least known is the Tales at the Times facility. That one is actually downtown. So people are surprised when we tell them, oh, you can go pick out a dog downtown. You know, there's hundreds of them there. And that building used to be the El Paso Times press building where they would actually print the newspapers. So that's where the city houses a lot of the animals now. And coming soon, it's been on the news a lot, so you might have heard about it. They're going to build an animal shelter at the former Moorhead Middle School property. So it's actually, that's going to be a mixed use facility. There's going to be animals housed there, and then there's also going to be migrants housed there. So that's a very interesting use of the space, but in my opinion, it's an effective use of tax dollars because it's, you know, an empty middle school and we can fill it with dogs. And lastly, we do unfortunately have animal cruelty cases. You know, that's something that happens everywhere. So the people who are in charge of those investigations are El Paso County Animal Welfare. They focus more on the livestock, any cases involving wild animals also. And then you have the Animal Services Animal Protection Field Operations. Those that are the animal control officers that you will see, you know, that will come to your house to pick up a stray dog, or that will go knock on your door and say, hey, it's 30 degrees outside, you need to bring your dog inside before they freeze. You know, so those are the people that you see out in the field. And before we move along, right here on the left, that is Catzilla. She also came from Animal Services. She was born with a cleft palate. You can't really see it in the picture, but her front legs are deformed. So she walks on her back legs like Godzilla. That's why we called her Catzilla. Okay, so now a little bit about the rescue process. So this is just how Mutlove does it. It's similar, you know, throughout all the other rescue organizations, but this is specifically for Mutlove. So first of all, obviously we take custody of the dog. We have to have the dog with us. The second step is to arrange, provide, and pay for veterinary care. Now, while the animal is under our care, we pay for all the food, all the supplies, all the veterinary costs. So, if any of you are thinking about fostering, but you're concerned about the cost, there is no cost to you as a foster. We will provide everything that the animal needs, even if it's a kennel, if they need puppy pads while they're potty training, all of that stuff we provide. The third step is to make the dog adoptable. What that means is we have to socialize them. We have to make sure they are kennel trained, potty trained, that they're desensitized. For example, if it's a dog, we need to figure out, do they get along with cats or not? Are they afraid of loud sounds? Do they have separation anxiety? So all these things that make a dog adoptable. Because again, like I said, an untrained dog is almost impossible to adopt or rehome. So we don't want to make that problem worse. So once the dog is adoptable, we inform the public of the available dogs and cats. So, and the way we do that is through social media and through events. We take our animals to events all over the city so that people can interact with them, hopefully fall in love, and decide to adopt. And then you can also check out all of their pictures and their profiles on our Facebook and Instagram feeds. The fifth step is to carry out home checks for those people that are interested, and this is the start of the foster to adopt process. So the home checks, we don't do it, to be intrusive or nosy. It's for the safety of the animal and to make sure that that animal is compatible with your family lifestyle. So, we make sure that there's no chemicals in your yard that the animal could get into and get sick, or that they can't easily jump a wall and escape and get run over. As far as the compatibility, we also want to make sure that, for example, if it's a lazy dog who's a couch potato, we don't want to put them with a person who loves to run marathons on the weekends. There has to be a compatibility there so that the dog really enmeshes with your family lifestyle. Step 6, once the family is ready, once you say, okay, yes, we've met this dog, we've interacted with this dog, we want to keep it, that's when we process the adoption contract and the fee. The contract, again, is just basic demographic information, address, who's going to be taking care of the animal. Again, since we are a 501c3 organization, we have to keep records of where our animals go. We can't just be handing them out, like like door prizes or anything. And the fee, you only pay the fee once you know for sure that you want to keep the animal. The fee is $100, which might be a little bit steep. Again, some rescues adopt out for free, other rescues adopt out for more money. But really, it's costing us money every time that we adopt out a dog, because by the time the dog goes to your house, as your new family member, we will have spent an average of $370 on all their vetting, their microchip, their shots, spay and neuter, and things like that. So we don't make any money. We are a nonprofit. And of course, the last step is we encourage the adopters to join Mutt Love Forever After, which is a Facebook page dedicated to updates for the dogs that get adopted out. So you'll see, for example, if you're fostering an animal and you want to see how they're doing, well, if their new family is on Mutt Love Forever After, they'll get to post pictures and you'll see how they're doing, kind of to keep that connection going and give you updates about the animal that you took care of. So yeah, that's the rescue process. And just really quick, the pictures, that cutie in the top left, that's baby Yoda. Um, Him and these two dogs on the bottom left, they were from one of our hoarding cases. So they did not look this nice when we removed them from the home. Obviously, the ones on the bottom left, they just got out of the groomer when we took that picture. Um, and then Baby Yoda, everybody wanted Baby Yoda on social media. Everybody was messaging, is he up for adoption? I want him. Can I pay more so that you can let me adopt him? Well, it's not, we're not bidding away a dog to the highest bidder. There's a process. But actually, Baby Yoda, he's one of the dogs who went on transport. He went to the Humane Society of Utah, him and a lot of his siblings, and he got adopted out there. And Here on the top right, I know that picture might be a little bit hard to look at. That's McLeod. He was a stray. He was obviously in rough shape, not groomed. He had a massive tumor. And as part of the rescue process, he turned into the after picture that you see there. He was happy. He was healthy. We paid for his surgery. And he's still kicking, actually. So he's doing really well with his new family. Any questions so far or comments? No. Okay, so moving on. So these are the jobs of a rescue volunteer, just so that you know really what goes on behind the scenes. And if you do decide to volunteer with us or with any rescue, these are the skills that you're going to be learning to put on your resume. It's not just dogs, dogs, dogs. And as you can see, there's a lot of jobs. Um, and, aside from the dog rescue volunteer work that we have, a lot of us, or almost all of us, really, we have full-time jobs, we have families to take care of. So some days we look like Tali here on the bottom left, a little frazzled, but that's okay because we're helping save lives. Um, but anyway, so these are the types of skills that you're going to learn through animal rescue. So social media management, that is crucial for getting the word out there about what we do and about the help that is needed. Uh, we need people to do public relations. We actually interact with the media a lot. Currently, we've had to turn down a couple of media interviews actually because of a very high profile case that we took on. So that has given us some serious public relations experience that at least I didn't have. You can also get customer service experience in dealing with potential foster families, with people at events, really representing the rescue well. And then speaking of events, we do need help with event planning, which is crucial for fundraising and adoptions. If we don't get out there, nobody knows who's available or what the help is needed. So event planning is really important. It's fun, but it can be a little hectic, and it's a great skill to have. More on the technological side, we do get experience with database administration because while we only have 35 dogs and 4 cats right now, we've had hundreds. Um, so we have to keep track of everybody, where they went, when they got their shots, all of that useful information. Web design, we don't, we have a primary website, but again, since everybody's a volunteer, we haven't updated it. So it would be great to have somebody with a little bit of web design experience to volunteer for us and revamp our website. That would be really awesome. As far as graphic design, we do have banners and we use logos. That logo on the top left was actually designed by one of our volunteers. Um, what else? Administrative assistance, again, scheduling, when the animals are going to get spayed or neutered, who got their shots, when we need to drop off a dog at a new foster home. All those little technical details fall into administrative assistance. And then accounting and fundraising, again, we're a nonprofit, but we have to keep track as if we were a business where our money is going. For example, if sometimes people donate specifically for a certain dog, so we need to make sure that those funds from that person go towards that specific dog's vet bill. So that can be pretty tedious sometimes. And then, of course, networking is a big one. Everybody, no matter what your major is, what job you want to go into, networking is a crucial, crucial skill. So you'll get to partner not just with other rescues, obviously, but with businesses all over town. And just off the top of my head, we've partnered with Sun City Sawdust, which is a DIY studio. We have an ongoing partnership with the Yard Patio and Beer Garden. They make monthly donations, and we have events there almost every month. We've partnered with PetSmart for National Adoption Weekend, so I'm sure you've seen us out at the fountains or at PetSmart with all of our animals. We partner with Prime Med Pharmacy. They're also one of our monthly donors. Chef Jam's Kitchen, Chef Tony has been gracious enough to donate 100% of his proceeds at one of the locations to the dog rescue, and we've even partnered with Twin Peaks. So yeah, networking, networking, networking. Part of networking is managing those partnerships, maintaining, going to meetings, making sure that things get done on a deadline. So again, that's super important for any career that you're in. If we have any writers in the audience, if you're good at creative writing, you can help us write our posts, to really tug at the heartstrings and get the money coming in for these animals. If you are more of a technical writer, you can help us with our forms because we have vet authorizations, we have adoption contracts, we have foster contracts. So there is a lot of technical writing on the back end that people can help us with. And then lastly, management, which is, you manage your volunteers and your fosters exactly as if you were somebody's boss in a regular job, except, you have to treat them nicely because you're not paying them. So yeah, you do get a whole lot of experience there. And yeah, regarding the pictures, like I said, that's Tali on the left. She's one of our newer cases. She's not available for adoption yet because she has a tumor that needs to be taken care of. Um, the middle picture are two of our fosters with a litter of 6 Chihuahua puppies. Out of those 6, 4 are still up for adoption, and they're very cute, but they're yappy. So if you love yappy little dogs, some of them are still up for adoption. And then on the right, we have Nike and Yoda. Again, you remember Yoda from one of the previous pictures. And the spotted dog right there with Yoda, that's Nike, she was one of my pandemic buddies. So that's actually there in my office at home. So she would keep me company. And I know we have a couple of questions. Let me address it. Okay, so how many have you fostered? I personally have fostered 27 dogs at last count, if I haven't miscounted. Currently, I only have one foster, and you'll see a picture of him later. And then Patricia asked, is there a website for donations? On our website, you can go to our website and donate through PayPal or from PayPal through there. But I can also put here in the chat, I'll put our Cash App since it seems like everybody has Cash App. And that is our cash tag. So you can make a donation there if you want. But again, we also have PayPal. We take cash donations at the events. We'll even take a check if you're willing to do that. Um, okay, Cassidy, you're asking the puppy on the far right, the one that's sleeping, that's Yoda. That was during the pandemic, and he's one of the ones who went to the Humane Society of Utah. So yeah, he is long gone, but I assure you we have a ton of adorable puppies still up for adoption. Okay, and okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide. So these are some notable cases. And if you follow us on social media, maybe you may have heard of some of these, or if you follow FitFam, I think all of these dogs went FitFam famous. um, and these are some pretty big cases that we were involved with. Animal Services also gets involved, from the animal cruelty aspect of it. But yeah, let me just tell you a little bit about each of them. So on the top right, we have Güera. She is currently still under our care. She is not available for adoption yet because she just had some pretty major surgery. If you look closely at the picture, you can see that like the back of her neck and her front legs, they were shaved because she very recently had surgery a couple of weeks ago. And that's actually a CT scan that she had showing the damage to her spine. She was a community surrender, and this one actually a little boy messaged us saying, hey, my dog is really sick. My parents can't afford the care, but they don't want to ask for help. So that one was a little bit tricky for us on how to reach out because it was a minor child who had reached out to us initially. But we figured it out, and the family agreed to surrender the dog to us. and we raised $9,800 for this dog's surgery. So that was pretty mind blowing. FitFam helped a lot with that, but in general, the El Paso community really came through and they helped this little Chihuahua. So, yeah, she had a spinal injury, which is currently healing, but she won't be available for adoption until she gets the all clear from the vet. Because again, we can't release a dog out into a member of the community until they're fully taken care of. Now we have Francesca the Frenchie. She's the one here on the bottom left, staring into your soul. Now, this one actually, I can no longer give any details because the investigation is open and ongoing. But we did post about her on our Facebook page, on our Instagram. Again, she went FitFam famous, so you can look up the story on FitFam also. So the details that were released before we were asked not to give any more information, the details are still publicly available, so you can go and you can read her story. It's very very sad and concerning. But all I can say is that she is still alive and she is still under her care, and it is a criminal investigation that is going on regarding her. So, yeah, she won't be available for adoption for a long, long time. But a lot of people have been messaging because she's a French bulldog and obviously, a designer dog. Everybody wants a designer dog for, free or cheap. So we've been getting tons of messages saying, hey, I want the French bulldog. I want the French bulldog, but we can't quite let her go just yet. So yeah, that's Francesca the Frenchie. And then here in the very middle and on the top right, we have Cyrano. So Cyrano, he was from Animal Services. He was picked up as a stray. He is a Newfoundland mix, so he's a giant, giant dog. I think when I sit down next to him, he's probably taller than me. So he's a big dog, but he's a sweetheart. He's very gentle. He showed up with a broken jaw. He had an infection on his nose. If you see, that's why he looks a little bit weird. So he actually had to have chunks of his nose bone removed, of his palate. So he's never going to look normal, because of his injuries, he did actually lose bone. So that's what he's going to look like forever. But he's a big sweetheart, and he can eat like a normal dog, and he does normal dog things. He's just a little weird looking. Um, and he has been with us for a long time again because when we take him out to events or when people see his picture, that's not a pretty dog. So he's not a dog that everybody's getting in line to adopt him because of the way he looks, but he's a really sweet dog. And then on the bottom right, we have Delilah Bell. Um, she was one of the cases also where the community really came through for us, and we fundraised a lot of money for her. She is a purebred Great Dane. Great Danes tend to have a lot of health issues, particularly Delilah. She has mega esophagus, as most Great Danes do, and she was born with what is called a persistent aortic arch. So basically, there is an artery wrapped around her esophagus, and she was having a lot of difficulty eating. That's why she's very thin there in that picture, and you see her in her feeding chair. She no longer has to use her feeding chair, but for like 4 months she did. So she's gaining weight little by little. And yeah, her surgery was almost $8,000. So the El Paso community really, really helped her pull through because she would not have made it otherwise. Um, and now just a little bit of information about some of our hoarding cases. So we did have one in central El Paso that is still kind of ongoing, actually. And of course, I'm not going to give too much detail as far as the persons or the locations because we want to protect the people involved. If investigations have happened with animal services, those have already concluded. But, we don't want to speak ill about anybody. So the hoarding case in Central, it was an older gentleman, with a big heart, and he started taking in strays. And before he knew it, he had about 40 dogs at his house. And it was a small two-bedroom house in Central. So, things got out of hand. The dogs had puppies, and those puppies started having puppies. So it was pretty hard to manage for him as far as food. Obviously, they were not receiving veterinary care. You can imagine, the state that his floors and his yard were in. So we stepped in. Animal Services helped us out. We spayed and neutered everybody. We adopted out a bunch of the dogs. He did get to keep some, of course, again, because he loved dogs. Dogs were his family. Um, and then with that same gentleman, last year he reached out to us again. This time he had 19 dogs, which is not as bad as 40, but still pretty bad. But this time the dogs had actually knocked him down and injured him, and he was hospitalized. So it was a little bit more urgent. So we had to go in again. Spay and neuter the new dogs that were there that were not there the first time around. And then there was a litter of 6 puppies that came out of that. And most of those have already been adopted out. Now, the second hoarding case in Northeast El Paso, that one happened, I believe, in 2019. That one was the biggest one that I've ever seen personally. It was about 75 dogs. We called it the Oodles of Poodles case because it was mostly poodle and terrier mixes, very cute dogs, very small. Yeah, it was, you cannot imagine the stench. 75 dogs, and it was a normal size um 3-bedroom house. So most of these dogs, again, since they were small and cute and fuzzy, a lot of them were transported out to other rescues across the country, and a lot of them were adopted here in El Paso. But the hoarding cases, it's the logistics of it are a nightmare because you need to figure out where are you going to put all these dogs that you're removing from the home. Um, how are you going to pay for shots and sterilizations and any testing that all these dogs might need, all of a sudden, all at once? How are you going to transport them? Who's going to help organize the adoptions? So it's a lot of work that goes on in the back end to get them out of these dangerous situations. So yeah, those are some of our notable cases. So if I haven't scared you away from dog rescue or animal rescue, this is a list of just some of the many dog rescues that we have here in town that you can volunteer with. Obviously, I would love it if you volunteer with Mutt Love Dog Rescue, but it doesn't have to be just us. You can volunteer with anybody. The Animal Rescue League is out in Canutillo. Bridge Pups Rescue, that one was actually founded by another EPCC employee. We have Two Rivers Dog Rescue. They help us with the Great Danes. Last year was the year of the stray Great Dane. We ended up with like 5 Danes that were out on the street. So they helped a lot with that. El Paso Pug Rescue obviously focuses on pugs. You have Law and Paws. These last two on the first square, Stickhouse Sanctuary and Second Chance Wildlife Rescue, they actually deal more with wild animals. So I'm talking skunks, turtles, squirrels, ducks, that they pick up that are very ill at Ascarate or places like that. Second Chance Wildlife Rescue actually helped me with a very strange bird that I picked up one time. So they came and they actually picked him up here from Mission, and they took care of him. And then we do have Mutlove Juarez, that's run by a different group of administrators over there. We have a rescue partner in Alamogordo, Home to Bark and Purr. They help both cats and dogs. Sun City Cats only helps cats, obviously. And then in Juarez, we have Unidogs and we have APRODEA, which is the Asociación Pro Defensa Animal. So again, definitely, if you're gonna donate, I would say even if you're thinking, donate to Mutlove or donate to the Juarez ones, donate to the Juarez ones. They really, really need it. The animal rescue situation over there is even more dire than here. And of course, you can volunteer directly with the Humane Society of El Paso. One that I didn't mention is rescue runners. With rescue runners, you go to the shelter, you pick up a dog in the morning, you walk them a couple of miles, get them out to exercise, get some more stimulation, and then you give them back. So it's an easy way that you can volunteer. And like I said, you can also help with transports. You can give dogs rides to the vet or to the groomer. If you don't want to commit long term, you can be a temporary foster. You can tell us, hey, I can foster a dog for a month to see if I like it. And we can do that as well. You can help us at events, with the setup, with talking to people, with making sure, the dogs are behaving, with selling things that we sell. The events are always really fun. You can also attend city council meetings, to advocate for these animals. We usually try to have representatives there every time. We don't always get to talk, but when we do, we really make it a point to emphasize the need that animals have here in the community. Do we have any questions? Okay, so this is my last slide, and here you have my contact information. You have the dog rescues, our Gmail, our Facebook, our Instagram, if you want to follow us. I'm going to also link, this is not directly related to the dog rescue, but this is a really cool document that was created by I always get the name wrong, the Borderland Animal Welfare Collaborative. Let me see if this link works. Let's see. Okay, so that should work. So that document will show you resources on what to do when you come across an animal that might need help. And it's not just dogs or cats. So if you see a snake, what do you do? Who do you call? If there's a skunk, if there's a loose horse, which happens sometimes in the lower valley apparently, if there's bats or if there's an animal that you suspect has rabies, that document has links and contact information for what to do in each of those situations. So on behalf of, we have Blackbeard, Biscuit, Jackson, Francesca the Frenchie, we have Trixie and Nike. Thank you very much for attending this session. And now I can answer any other questions that you all might have.
If there is no further questions, you can still ask us. You can raise your hand. But other than that, I'll go ahead and take us for next week's sessions. I'd like to take a minute to thank Ms. Olivas for presenting for us today on these volunteering opportunities and helping dogs and cats in our community. It was a wonderful presentation. I would like to tongue-tied. I would like to thank the audience for coming today and joining us for their lunch break. And we hope that you all have a wonderful weekend. But before we let you go, I would like to invite you to next week's sessions. On July 5th, we're going to have a Math 1314 Happy Math Hour, Finding Zeros, and Exam 2 review. Again, that's only going to be for Math 1314 next week. Also, we'll be having a session with a reading workshop with Rose Galindo at 1 p.m. Again, I'd like to thank you all for coming today and hope you have a wonderful weekend.